We are in the last few days of 2021. I'm Christine Clapp. I'm the founder and president of Spoken with Authority, and I'm joined by three of my incredible coaches to talk about what we learned this year and to start thinking about 2022. To get us started in this reflection process, let me kick it over to Bjorn Stillian Southard. What was your takeaway from 2021?
Have you ever played one sport for a long time and you think I'm pretty fit because I run and I feel like I've got a good fitness, and then you go and you do a different sport. You play basketball, you do yoga, maybe you go and play soccer, and you're like, why am I so sore? And you thought you were flexible and you thought you were fit, and then you realize, no, I was fit in one way but not in another. That's what 2021 felt like to me, is that I felt like I had a pretty good handle on how to coach presentations, and then everything changes and you're in a different sport and a different discipline, and you realize you have to be flexible. And so I think that taught me to maybe the best way to keep the athletic metaphor going is to cross train, is to be open and willing and flexible in how you approach things, because things did keep changing. Some things reverted back to the way they were pre-pandemic. Some things stayed the same. Some things crept into even more new areas. There was, issues with just how folks were processing things psychologically, emotionally, physical spaces, online spaces, all this stuff. And so it was a reminder of being flexible in new ways. That's kind of what I took away from 2021, flexible in new ways, and just remembering that maybe cross-training is a good thing when it comes to how we approach presentations.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Lisa Richard, what about you? Where do you think back about 2021?
Well, I love Bjorn's metaphor, and I think that I'm kind of looking inside of that metaphor and the idea of the flexibility. So the thing that comes to mind to me from 2021 is assume nothing. And maybe that's always a good thing, but just assume nothing. Assume nothing about the thing that you prepared for and how you thought it was going to happen and whether that's really what is going to happen. Assume nothing about the people in front of you and how they're arriving and what is working well for them and what is not. Assume nothing even for us in talking to clients. Do we really know where people are coming from and what's coming to the table with them? So assume nothing, and along with that, nothing is obvious. And that's, I guess, when I'm working with somebody, and I think certainly because we're all in this crazy boat together, we're all thinking about this thing, or we've all been on Zoom so much that we're really focused on that, our beautiful Zoom background, and whether, I don't know, there's something distracting or that I'm not in focus or my lighting's not good. Nothing is obvious. And so point things out, say what you notice, say what's true for you, find out what's true for other people, and just get as much on the table as we can because we don't know. And inside that piece of flexibility that Bjorn is talking about, what does flexibility look like? I've been talking to people a lot about, as presenters, as speakers, preparation. We always say preparation is so important, but now we're saying, but you don't know where you're going to show up or what it's going to look like. So I think one of the things that's interesting to do now is to really anticipate, and to anticipate multiple options, and to actually prepare for 3 different things that might happen, or just different directions that things might go, so that we can say, well, I can't prepare for the unknown. Maybe I can prepare some for the unknown. If I've looked at what some of the possibilities are, I've run through them, I've played with them, I've put myself in those situations. So assume nothing, nothing's obvious, anticipate and prepare. That's my look back on 2021.
Yeah, I think that is really insightful, Lisa, about especially on don't assume things. I recently went to my first in-person conference, and one of the things I assumed is that people who signed up to go to an in-person conference would be pretty comfortable with the protocols that they had in place and interacting in person. But there were people who were double masked. They didn't want to get close to you. They didn't want to shake hands. They really were sparse in group settings. They would sit alone at a table during the educational sessions. And it was a good reminder that yeah, people have very different levels of comfort, and you can't assume that just because they signed up that they're comfortable in the same way that you or someone else might be comfortable. So really great advice. And that's one of the places where I saw that don't assume really recently at an in-person event. So thanks for that great reflection. Jean Miller, what about you? What do you think about when you look back on this year?
I think of 2021 as a half and half year. At the beginning, we were still being remote for everything. And then this second half of the year, I was really back in person for all of my work. And so I think balance came to mind for me, and managing our expectations in a balanced way. When it comes to public speaking, I started thinking about all of the different kinds of balance we need to find. And on the content side, we want people to tell stories and have some emotion, but that has to be balanced with some attention to the data and the logic of your argument. And when delivering, we want people to be still and poised. And we also want them to move and use gestures and have some energy. And so I think it just brought the importance of balance back to me. And then just in life and in coaching, the need to balance grace and accountability. And we need to be mindful of extending grace to people. And I think we've gotten much better about that. But that we still need to hold ourselves accountable to our responsibilities and hold others accountable too. One thing that came up recently in the college setting was people did away with deadlines. And what they found was that students dug themselves into some very big holes when they had no deadlines. And it's possible to have deadlines and be flexible and hold people accountable to some extent while still extending them some grace. So I think that's the biggest lesson for me, is to try to find balance in all things as much as possible.
Thanks, Jean. One of the places where I think I'm still struggling to find balance is between the comfortable clothes of Zoom and work from home and the professional world. And how do you have a good balance there? And I really am okay not going back to wearing dry clean only suits and high heels and in-person events. But what does the balance look like? How do you strike it? So I love that idea of figuring out a balance. And I think we're all navigating what that balance is. So thanks for bringing that up as we're closing out 2021 and looking at and maybe thinking about how we want to strike those balances in 2022. For me, my initial reaction for 2021, for me personally, it was dumpster fire, because I feel like I was really careful as a family and as an individual. I did nothing in person until November, after my youngest child was vaccine eligible. And I still ended up getting COVID breakthrough case with my son, who was also fully vaccinated. So that was my initial reaction, was dumpster fire. But actually, I think that 2021, when I look back on it, there's a lot of opportunity. I'm going to go back to Bjorn's metaphor about sports. And we had a lot of clients who experienced oh my gosh, the quarterback is going through the COVID protocols and can't play this week or next week. And they were given an opportunity to step up into a role that they wouldn't otherwise have had. The conference I recently went to, there was a person who was a speaker who got COVID, couldn't leave the house, couldn't travel, they were not willing to let the person present hybrid. I don't even know if he was well enough to do so. And someone else in 3 days put together a presentation on the topic and did it. So I do think that as part of being in 2021 was dealing with being flexible and going after opportunities when they came. And I think as we look forward to 2022, it's really important to think about, as speakers, as subject matter experts, as emerging leaders, as leaders, how can we be best prepared as presenters so that we can be flexible if there is an opening and we have an opportunity to fill it at the last moment for a speaking role that we never thought we would get. And another type of opportunity is, like Lisa was mentioning, is we might have an opportunity to speak in person, and it may not happen in person. It may be hybrid, it may be online, it might be really different. So thinking about, okay, if I can't do it in person, what are the opportunities of doing it hybrid or online? How can I leverage that to make it unique and better? And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't have to be a dumpster fire. It can be an opportunity for us to embrace, but only if we're ready, only if we have practiced and worked hard at our craft as presenters. Because in those moments of opportunity, if you're not prepared, if you're not ready, if you're not trained up, they lead to crisis rather than leading to an elevated moment where you really do get to shine as a professional, as a person, as a leader. Thank you so much to my team, Bjorn and Lisa and Jean. I'm so glad to have you and the rest of our coaches as part of Spoken with Authority. Thank you for all your hard work in 2021. Thanks to all of our clients who worked with us on coaching engagements and training programs. We're really excited to work together as a team and to continue working with our clients in 2022. So happy holidays and happy new year.